I'd rather spend a lot more money on building up that database, like with Facebook ads, because still for our area, Facebook lead ads are the least expensive in our area. And if I just want to build out a database and then nurture them along the way through retargeting, remarketing, I think to me, that makes more sense than that 6% conversion rate on a Zillow lead.
That's a long-term play. And if you were
Yeah.
starting today, like if you had 0 leads in your database, it kind of makes sense to go after some of those leads that you can generate faster. Go for those Zillow type leads that are in your mix, because you can get them to close faster because they're property leads. But it's hard to sustain a long-term business off of those because of that cost per sale. And so the way to sustain that long-term business is you build up that database, you're getting thousands of leads that are at a low price that you have to nurture over time, but that feed you over a long period of time. That's actually one of the things we're looking at today, is how those agent-ready leads mature when they start out as a registration lead. Because these leads that are registration leads are not typically ready to buy today. Half of them that do convert in the first year, and then another half are going to convert after that. And so the leads that you're generating today off of registration or internet leads, they're prepping you for next year's business. And that's, one of the key points. It's always building for having sustainable business in the future.
All right, I like that. And for those of you who are jumping in because you caught us in mid-conversation, I just clicked start. Jeff Walker with CINC, thanks for doing this. I know we're going to talk about trends. And Jeff, I want to show my screen really quick, trend-wise, because this just came out. Let me share with you. It's Housing Market Update 2023, Redfin, October 19th. They do this every week-ish or so. And you see here, Google searches for homes for sale in the nation, according to Google Trends, down 22% year over year. That's a significant drop, but I'm also noticing, because we do heavy Google PPC, that they're more serious. The people we're getting are less looky-loos. They're actually looking and they're saying, yes, I'm aware, I'm still looking. What are you noticing?
Yeah, that's the advantage now, is that I don't think interest rates are a surprise to anybody. So the leads that you're getting now, they haven't been living under a rock. So they already know the current environment. So that's the good news. And so cost per lead for us has gone up a little bit to match the market. Leads were $5 or $6 a couple of years ago, and now they're $7 or $8 per lead. And so they've tended, as volume has gone down in transactions, of course, there's a corresponding increase because there's more competition for buyers. But then what we're seeing is the intent is not dropping off in terms of the ability to connect with those leads and to set appointments with those leads. So I got a couple of data points on that, because that's one of the things we track, is we're looking at how many quality conversations are our clients having, and how is that trending against the market. And you'll see it's actually, the good news is, and the encouraging news is, they're still picking up the phone. So you can still reach a lead and have that quality conversation and start building them into your pipeline as successfully as ever.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And we tend to shy away in a market like this from investing in our marketing. And we're actually doing the opposite. But I also warn people that this is our strength, right? Our strength is online lead conversion. It's always been from the very beginning. If that's something that your strength, or that you want it to be your strength, this is definitely the way to attract the most people that are interested. Because I say it this way, Jeff, when people, and I know you guys have the data for this, but when people go on Facebook, they're typically scrolling through. I'm looking to see how my family's doing or my friends are doing. And then I see an ad. And then I'm like, oh, that house looks cool. Click. My intent is almost zero, right? But I just like the house. I want to see more of it. Maybe it's a little higher. But when I go to Google, I have to type in homes for sale in Malibu, close to Pepperdine University, close to the beach, enter. That intent is so much higher, which puts me down in the funnel closer to bottom of funnel. And I love that. So we gravitate more towards Google PPC, especially in this market where we're trying to attract the most amount of people that need to move, right?
It's funny, and that's I always say the same thing, that the leads, even though they might not always give you accurate information up front, they're not registering by accident, meaning like they didn't accidentally type homes for sale. And our advertising, we're not advertising on those broad keywords anyway. It's very niche and very local. And so it's people that are searching for specific locations that are in your market. And that's something that clients can work with their ads team to set up. So they have to be searching very specifically, land on the page, and then click on a listing that interests them, and then have enough motivation to say, I'm willing to register in order to see the rest of the listing details. And so it's not a mistake. And so there's a question, of course, of where are they in their intent and how long before they transact. But it's somebody who wants to buy real estate or sell real estate and is going to be interested in a potential client now or in the future.
Dude, I don't think I ever, as much as I talk about online lead conversion, I've never thought about that being another one of the key differences, which is Google PPC, because you type that whole thing through. It's not a mistake versus, oh, my son clicked on it. So I don't even know how I got, that's Facebook. But on Google PPC, you can't do that. That's so funny. Never thought of that.
Even on Facebook, though, what's interesting about the Facebook is that oftentimes the ads are property specific. Like we have a product which advertises your listings. And so you do have the advantage of the clicks being for listings that you represent, and you're capturing buyers who are interested in those listings. And so you're creating possible two opportunities there. And one of the questions that gets asked is, are you ready to tour this home? And so there is some qualification that goes on in those questions. It's not just one click and the lead's generated. You still have to confirm your information, answer a few questions about what your time frame is. And one of the questions is, if you found the perfect house, when would you be looking to buy it? And so you get that information with that lead. Still, there's information there.
True. I'm going to answer Michelle. Michelle, the last webinar we did, I think it was 3 weeks ago or so, maybe a little longer, with Alvaro. He showed us some graphics on a study that CINC did. It was like a 5-year study or so. And our team redesigned the graphic. It's still CINC information. You can see at the bottom, but these are real numbers right here, percentage-wise. You're looking at a 1% conversion. And I think the 1% conversion from the other graphs, I don't have them with me, or bar charts or whatever, is in a 3-year length of time. 1% conversion in 3 years. The majority of them happen in the first year. And then the rest happen through year 2 and 3. But then you can see how, for me, we don't use Zillow. And in our area, it's much higher than $5,000 per closing. It's $8,500 per closing. And over here, it's $1,800 per closing. Those are real numbers. And we've been doing Google PPC or Google Ads since 2009-ish. But Jeff, anything you want to add to that? Because I know this is your data, your guys' data.
No, yeah. So it's, and I'll echo what Alvaro said, that 1% sounds like not a lot. 1 out of 100 leads transact, but that's about the volume game of these registration leads, because when the lead is $6, $7, $8, that 1% is only costing you $600 per sale. And it also allows you to build a more predictable volume, because you end up with a lot of leads in your database that transact over time. And so for building that long-term sustainability of the business, 1% is a great way to generate lots of transactions, as long as you have good lead volume coming in at those low cost per lead.
I like that, man. Thank you. And for those of you who are just jumping in, because we got another like 20 people who jumped in a little late. Jeff Walker's with CINC out of Marietta. Jeff, what's your position out there? What do you do?
I'm VP of Product. So I'm responsible for what is new with CINC product. And so how are we adjusting the product to help agents be more successful, to respond to trends in the marketplace? And so for us right now, lead quality is number one. And so when we look at when we look at our responsibility on product is how can we address, especially in a market where there's declining intent, more opportunities for agents to get hand raisers from their database, folks that are saying, not just I'm registering on your website, but I want to speak with you specifically, and to make sure they're taking advantage of those opportunities. So the product changes we're making are really around hitting those goals.
So what are you noticing as far as trends, since you're in charge of this? What should we be paying attention to when it comes to all of this?
Let me share my screen on this because a couple interesting things. So we'll jump past this. This is basically the slide or the data that supports what you just showed. We love it when it goes up, but the information's good. And you can see that this has been the declining trend in terms of the annual rate for existing home sales. And we all know that this has been dropping. It's down about 15% since the past year. And we've seen how this has impacted buyer intent on the platform when we look at certain engagements on the platform as well. And so that's really what we're looking to counteract. Okay, so we know there's going to be fewer transactions right now. What can we do to help make sure that we're leveraging the transactions that are out there? There's still 4 million transactions to go after. And so we can be better at capturing those, and as well as positioning ourselves for the future, because clearly we are at the bottom of a dip right now that as we look at today's leads that are going to be transacting over the next 1 to 2 years, we're really building up that funnel for the recovery that is no doubt going to happen when we start to see rates dip back down again. Definitely. So as I was mentioning earlier, when it comes to in terms of just engaging with leads, this is one of the things that we look at. We have this, you mentioned it earlier, you participated in that power hour where it's that, hey, how many appointments can you get? You sit down and call leads. This is something that happens with our training team does as part of our CINC U, and it's happening at least once a month in person, and now we're doing it online as well. And we capture the metrics that happen during those calls. And so we're looking to see 2 key things: how many leads pick up, and how many appointments are created from those leads which pick up. And what's interesting here is you can set a clock to this trend line. This goes back to Q1 of 2021. So we've got about 2 years worth of data here. For the 25,000 calls that have been made in this power hour at CINC U, the pickup rate is always between 15 and 20%. It really averages around 17%. So they spend an hour calling in the afternoon, and about 1 in 5 folks are answering the phone. So this is one of the things that we look at. With this declining market, are people just not answering the phone anymore? That's not happening. They're still answering the phone at the same rate as they traditionally have. And then secondly is this appointment rate. So the appointment rate represents for the calls that picked up, how many of them during that power hour were agents able to agree to a follow-up appointment. And that has consistently been between like 35 and 45%, averages around 40%. So they're getting almost half of those conversations to convert to an appointment during power hour. And again, going back a couple of years, maybe a slight decline, but nothing that's too worrisome. In fact, we just had one, it's not reflecting these metrics, that was last week, and the number was back to 39% in the last session. So we see these dips and rises, but it's always in that zone. So what this tells us is that the leads, especially since now the leads that they know the state of the market, still willing to pick up the phone, still willing to commit to meeting with the agent and establishing that relationship, building rapport, starting their search, and at the same rate that they have been in the past. So I see this and say, as long as we're approaching these with the quality scripts, with the right mindset, knowing how to handle, you're always going to have leads that say, I'm just browsing, whether it's a good market or a bad market. So knowing how to overcome that and get them in a position where they're ready to meet you, if you've got that skill set going, we're seeing the same results as we always have.
Jeff, I love this, man. I'm going to ask for you to share this with me later, because I'd love to quote you guys on this one, like I've been doing with the other graph. The number one question, where'd you get that data? I'm like, CINC has it, man. So I love sharing.
So the trainers at these, they add them all up, because every time it's a competition. So they add them all up, put them in a spreadsheet, and I just added them all together and put them in this graph.
Who were they calling, Jeff? Was it a mix of online leads from Google,
Yeah,
Facebook?
they're for the majority, they're just going through how we train them to call their CINC leads. So it's sorting by the leads that have been engaged in the platform, making sure you're calling those new leads, but it's really just getting into that database. The majority of the leads are the CINC web leads and seeing how many you can reach in 1 hour.
This is crazy, man. I'm looking at the quarters here to see how things change. Q3 2021. I want to know what happened there because the contact rate was significantly lower than every other quarter. That was crazy.
It can depend upon the location, how many agents happen to be calling that quarter. These are done in different locations around the country. And so you're going to have outliers from individual sync use, but that's why don't worry so much about an individual metric and just look at the long-term trend.
Got it. I like it, man. A couple of questions. I'll ask Hannah's first to you, Jeff. Is there a specific time in the day that you've seen is more successful to contact people or connect with people?
I would really actually love to give you an exact answer on that. That's something that we're looking at right now because we're trying to determine whether or not it makes sense in the product to make a recommendation to when the right time to call is. Of course, the best time to call a new lead is right after they register, no matter when. And if it's somebody who is raising their hand because they've just made an inquiry, the best time to call is right now. So then it's really the question of, for the prospecting type leads where you're not responding to a specific action, you're just doing a follow-up, when's the best time to call? These are all afternoon calls. And so we don't consider these afternoons to be the best time, but we can see that you're still getting a good 17, 18% conversion rate. But I would love to come back with an exact number because we're doing some research around this about whether it's 6 o'clock dinner time type of, if that still holds true today in terms of getting people to pick up.
I love that. There was a study done. I know this. It was a B2B Harvard. I think it was Harvard Business who did this.
Oh yeah, the 5-minute rule.
Yeah. Dude, I'd love to find out what you guys discover on this. This is cool. Definitely interested. What other trends are you noticing, Jeff, that we should be paying attention to?
Oh, I'll go on to the next one. For CINC clients, I did want to make one quick pitch. It's my responsibility to make sure this happens. We started doing these online conversion days to supplement the in-person ones so anybody can join. And in this market, we want to give as many opportunities as possible to create an event around let's call our leads, because it's really emotionally often hard to do. You get a bunch of people together to commit to do it for an hour, see what kind of results you get, and have the resources there to help you get through the tough ones. That's what this is all about. This is for CINC clients. So we do invite you to jump in on this call, and you can scan that QR code to sign yourself up. These are free.
So hold on, this is open for everybody or just for CINC clients?
This is for CINC clients. I did want to, I think it's the context only makes sense because they're showing how to use the CINC platform. It's a good question as to whether or not this makes sense to open up for other folks. And I'll ask that of the training team as well. But right now, this is just for CINC clients.
Hey, Jeff, what would be a great idea, man? I'm just thinking on my feet here, but hit up Alvaro, or you and I can do it together. And maybe once a month, we could have a very similar thing on LabCoat Agents where it's sponsored by CINC and we just organize it for an hour.
That's a great idea because it doesn't matter what platform you have, the skill set of what to say when you get on that call with an internet lead for the highest success, that's going to translate, of course. And that's really what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to help develop those skill sets so that agents can be as successful as possible with these internet leads. That's one of the key distinctions. Registration leads, they're passive. They didn't ask for anything. They just registered to get access to the website. And so they're not expecting a call in many cases. And so there's going to be resistance when you initially call them. And so that's really what we're training around, is how to overcome that resistance, that defensiveness, break through, build rapport and trust, and then create a relationship which is going to result in a buyer-seller relationship with you.
I really like that, man. All right, let me ask a quick question before you go to this graph. Everyone that's on, let me know if that's something that you would be interested in LabCoat Agents. If we could have a conversion day, just 1 hour once a month, where we all get together and we just start dialing and just have each other as support. Nobody has to hear you, but we're there, we're doing it all together. And if you get stuck, there's always somebody there to be like, hey, this is how you roll with it, whether it's online leads, Facebook or Google, which I've been calling since 2006, 7, and your database, like past clients, your spheres, just to get together to be able to do this. I need a yes or a hell no. Which one? I need yes, because I think we definitely want to do it. Obviously, we have it sponsored by CINC, because
That's an
to learn
awesome
how
thing. And just being able to share your success, this worked, or hey, in that moment where you get stuck and you say this didn't work, and those types of things can actually, you're on your own and make you not want to make that next phone call, to get that coaching and hear from what's working with other people, to get past that so you can make that next call, be successful on the next call. It's so important. And it's so much just about doing those lead activities to get the results.
I love that, man. All right, so we got a lot of yeses. Let's definitely think
Great.
about this. All right, Jeff, show me what you've got here. What is this?
Yeah, and so this is a metric we look at in-house. It's called heartbeats. And so heartbeats for us represents the percent of leads that move from pipeline stage new or attempted contact to contacted in the first 30 days. And contacted means that a quality conversation happened with the buyer or seller. And so we know that it's the person who's the decision maker. We've had a conversation to find out their motivation, and they've adjusted their pipeline stage in the CINC platform. So we're monitoring that, because with our clients, we're helping to make sure that they are engaging with their leads in a way which will lead to success. And this also helps us just look at long-term trends. And so one of the questions I had, of course, is, with this change in the market, is there any change in the number of leads or percentage of leads which are being contacted and moving to the contacted stage in their database? And again, we see really it's following very much a seasonal trend versus any type of long-term trend that reflects a downturn in the market. So that again means that the leads that are being generated are engaging. And so we see, at the beginning of the year, we tend to have a lot of engagement with leads. They're getting ready for spring. We see it tend to tail off in the summertime. Usually November, December, not as great. And then we pick back up in January again. This February was interesting, actually, in that the reason why the contact rate is lower is because lead volume really spiked this month. There were a ton of leads that came through, and it may have been this month a little bit overwhelming, more leads that were coming to the platform versus agents' ability to keep up with the flow, which could result in a lower contact rate. But we can see that then things normalized in March and have been consistently trending at this around 18% rate. This is across all CINC clients with thousands and thousands of agents that are using the pipeline.
You know why that is, Jeff? I remember, this is my guess, rates dipped significantly in February when they were spiking up. They dropped down to 6, and then they immediately shot back up within 7 days, back up to 6.5, and then just continued to go up. So that could have given a bigger influx of leads when rates dropped.
A little spike there.
Yeah. All right, good, man. I love this.
Yeah, and so it just goes to show, and that's the key message, is don't give up on the activities, because don't let mindset of, oh, the market's declining so that people are going to be less interested. People are as interested as they have been. And then if we look at the top quartile of CINC clients, so these are the top 25% of best performance CINC clients, they're getting heartbeat rates about double of that of the average. So they're getting a 37.5% heartbeat rates, which means that within 30 days, they're moving over 1 in 3 leads from new or attempted contact to contacted, which is, one of the key things that we can measure in the system, because it's people are less likely to use stages downstream, but they're definitely using it up at the top here to mark the leads that they're engaging with.
That's true. Really quick, Jeff, I know this webinar has nothing to do with how you guys get the leads through the funnel, but can you really quickly go through for the purpose of understanding where the leads come from and how they funnel through the agent? How does that work?
You mean like where they're originated, like on
Yeah,
Google?
Google and Facebook. What does that look like? Really quick.
Sure. We place the ads that are basically targeted in the areas and the types of markets where you want to capture leads. And so you can work with the ads team to design what your ideal is. And then that's going to basically generate these pay-per-click ads on Google. So when someone's searching for those keywords that you're targeting, they click the ad and they're going to land on a search results page, a list of properties on your website that meets that criteria. And then when someone clicks a property, they are asked to register in order to see the full details. And then when they register, that's what creates that lead. And so then our goal, though, is that's the passive lead. Our goal is to move them from that passive state of I just registered and created this lead to the hand raiser, the person who's saying, I want to tour a specific home. I have a question about a property. I want you to, tell me if it's a good time to sell my house. Those types of questions where they're engaging with the agent. And that's really our next step. I don't think we're gonna have much time to talk about it today, but our goal in the product is to move them from registration to hand raiser through the automations, the getting them back to the site. So that's listing alerts, that's AI that's engaging with the leads. That's all the automations in the CRM that drive them back into the experience over time so that when they're ready, they're raising their hand to transact.
Jeff, would that be a webinar that we would do with you then, if we wanted to go that route?
Yeah, I'd love to. In fact, one thing just to take away, one more thing. I'm going to jump way ahead in this deck just because it's so interesting. And that is, now this is a client that we're working with in one of our new betas. And we're looking at, for the hand raisers, the property inquiries, the showing requests, we're working in the platform to make sure that they're surfaced, that the agent knows about them, and that they're prompted to follow up with them on a regular basis. But this is just really interesting, looking at this client's recent property inquiries. So this shows for leads that are in their platform that asked a question, said, I want to see a house, or I have a question about a house. The comparison to when they submitted that inquiry versus when they registered. And this ties it all back that we were talking about earlier about the advantage of having these leads, which you nurture over the long term. They're low cost, but they convert over the long term. You look at how long some of these were between when they registered and then when they actually finally stood up and raised their hand and say, I want to go see a house. For this particular client, the average time, but it was, there's those ones that registered and submitted inquiry on the same day, but some of them took 2 years or 3 years, and their average was 500 days for this group of between when they registered and when they submitted inquiry. Now, it's a long-term client. They've been around for a number of years, so they've got a really big database that's engaging. But it goes to show the power of sticking with it for the long term, because the longer you're in it, the more that database grows and the more you're able to take advantage of those relationships that have been built over the years with those leads who keep visiting, keep looking at properties. And then one day they suddenly pop up and say, I'm ready.
I like that, man. This is good. So a question based on this, and it's not for me. Maria has a great question. Does the agent reach out to these leads to nurture them, or does CINC have a process, or is it a combination? What is this?
100%, it should be a combination. So we want to do as much as possible on the product side to make it hands-off, but to be successful, they really should know who you are, develop that personal connection. We certainly would never say, just don't call your leads, don't engage with them. You should be checking in with them, adjusting their search, finding out what's going on in their search and their life, and building that relationship. Having a follow-up process that combines, hey, they're getting good information out of the system that prompts them to come back to your site so they keep seeing you and engaging you, but also having that personal relationship that's built so that they feel a connection with you, they feel a responsibility that they should work with you when the time comes.
I love this, man. So what other slides did you have that were really good that we didn't get to? Because I'd like to see them.
Something else that was interesting, this is a metric that really dictates the importance of what we're doing on the product side, trying to generate these hand raisers. We have that 1% conversion for all leads. And so that means any registration lead, the chance of it converting is going to be about 1%. So that's a $10,000 commission, 1% conversion rate means that every lead's worth $100 to you. But then what we get that lead to do next is going to help to increase its worth. So we have, for instance, the AI, which reaches out by text and then has conversations and then sets a flag when it's agent ready, when they're ready to make an appointment. So those convert at 5 times the rate of just a registration lead. So that lead that becomes agent ready via AI is worth $500. A lead that self-selects and submits a property inquiry, so they're asking about a house, that converts at 6 times the rate of a registration lead. So we can say those are worth $600. And then the showing request is the gold in the system, getting the lead to the point where they're saying, I want to see this house on this date with you. Those convert at 15 times the rate of just a regular registration lead. And so you see that showing request, that's worth $1,500 on average. And so that dictates for us, hey, these are the goals we should be going for. We need to be generating a platform which creates as many of these agent ready leads, as many of these hand raisers as possible.
Yes.
And that's where we've been focusing. Like this year, we launched a new listing details page on CINC, which increased property inquiries by 2 times and it increased showing requests by 3 times. So here's the metrics on the showing requests when we look at it across the platform. And it's interesting because we can see both the fight that we're engaged in from fighting against the market on intent, but the impact that we can have with product improvements and a focus on measuring and optimizing for these behaviors and actions that are most valuable. And so we can see that this is when we launched our new listing details page. And so
you can totally tell, dude.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But prior to that time, and if we extend it back the previous year, we were in this long decline of showing requests that's being driven just by there's fewer transactions happening in the marketplace. And so their intent to raise their hand and say, I'm ready to go see a house was declining. But we're still able to influence a lot by delivering a better product experience. And so with the new listing details page, we made requesting a tour a lot more sticky, a lot more visible on the page itself, and optimized our mobile experience for tour requests as well. So with that alone, we were able to, nearly quadruple the number of showing requests that are being generated. But still, we can see this trend line is we're fighting against that market trend. And it'll be very interesting to see when it starts to turn what's possible here in terms of the conversion rate that we can get from lead to showing request.
I love that, man. A question for me, and then I'll go to Peter and Angela. When you guys were doing this, since you're the VP of trends and I'm sure products, and you have your hands in a lot of things, this probably was an eye-opener for you. What other things are you looking to maybe redevelop and change so that this can happen with certain products that you already have?
So yeah, this actually is a slide which shows across all the different ways that somebody can become agent ready, what that trend has been since the beginning of the year. So the blue bars here represent unique inquiries and showing requests. So a lead that submitted either an inquiry or a showing request. So we've been able to boost that significantly. And then that has now rolled out in EDA in September. And so we've seen that now the mobile app, this is that mobile app that CINC clients get to share with their leads, that's doing a better job at generating showing requests and inquiries as well. But then on the seller side, the gray bar is what we call our home pulse leads, which are seller leads or buyers that register their home and want to keep track of their home's value and market activity. That is something which is building over time because it's a long-term nurturing in a lot of cases. We released this product in 2022, and we've got a lot more potential sellers on the platform which are raising their hands just from building a set of registered users who are now tracking their house on the CINC platform as well to track market activity and value and such. And so
That's amazing.
We're looking across various touch points to try to generate as many hand-raising opportunities as possible. And then the next biggest thing, Tristan, is getting agents to know that these actions are happening and to call those leads. Because one of the things we've seen is because there can often be a long time between the new lead and then when they raise their hand, those leads might be forgotten. And while agents are great about calling new leads, like there's so super about calling them for the first week or two, making sure that we're following up with them when they're demonstrating strong intent and engaged behaviors or requesting contact in these cases. That is something which we've seen half the time they don't get contacted when they submit an inquiry because
That's
it's
so
happening
true.
at that later time. And so that's where we've said, we can't just focus on generating more of these agent-ready leads. We have to make it easier for agents to know this is happening and to be contacting them. And that's where we're releasing a new feature this month, which is just a screenshot of it here, which is basically elevating all of those inquiries onto the launch pad so that agents don't miss them. And so that's all about when you get a contact request, that it doesn't stay buried in your leads database, but that it surfaces up here into a new section, contact requested, and that until you actually reach them, you can keep this card front and center so you don't forget that you need to keep following up with that until you get that appointment. Because getting that low-hanging fruit is, it kills me when like the system works and it's done its job, it's nurtured, you got that lead, it's nurtured for a period of time, then they raise their hand, and then the action doesn't happen. And since we've been testing this out with our beta clients, we've seen so many cases where they log into this new dashboard and go, oh, I didn't even know I had this. I had no idea this person was saying, I want to go see a house.
That's terrible. Jeff, I'm going to wait and make sure that I take advantage of your partnership with DoorDash. So you send somebody to knock on my door to let me know that I have a lead. Okay. That's when I'm going to take this seriously.
Hey,
dude, I don't know why agents suck at this part, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's not, again, we always look at it from the perspective of what can we do better? That means the product has an opportunity to flag these in a way which makes it impossible to miss. And so that's the responsibility that we take.
I love this, man. The next thing, though, CINC is going to partner with DoorDash and be like, hey, you got a lead? Do you want me to help you with it? That'd be amazing.
Hey,
a couple
if
questions.
You can get someone to door knock for you, that'd be pretty awesome service.
That'd be amazing. All right, let's go to Peter. With long-term leads, how often are you sending properties to help them make purchases or sales? Because that 500-day average is a longer time, right? A year and a half-ish. What does that look like for nurturing them? How often are we sending emails?
And keep in mind, his is going to be a little bit longer because of the number of leads that are in the database, which are years and years old. But yeah, daily or weekly, depending upon where somebody is. Instant can be certainly overwhelmed. Instant is great if you're planning to buy in 30 days. You need to know the minute somebody's coming on the market, a listing's coming on the market. But people generally, daily works for folks to engage with when they want to, but it's not so overwhelming that they're going to unsubscribe. And so that's the balance you want to take, is make it so that it's not too often that they go, I don't want to hear from you anymore, but enough so that you're constantly there when they need you.
That's a good one, man. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. And Angela Wallace, I get a lot of showing requests, but then I can't reach them when I call. Is there anything I should be doing other than continuing to call? Jeff, what do you think? And then I'll chime in after.
Try to reach them in many ways as you can. And if they're not picking up the phone, they might respond to a text. I would definitely advocate for letting them know what it's about. Typically, we say, hey, don't leave a voicemail if it's your first call. If somebody's asking for something from you, I would advocate setting that expectation that, hey, I'm here to help you take a look at this house. Here's some options for what days I can get you in there. Let's talk about what works for you. But let them know what you're calling about. And then texting and emailing. Don't give up on email. Oftentimes people respond to email when they're not responding through text and phone. And sometimes I think people take it for granted now because it feels antiquated in the world of text. But people do respond. And make it personal. Always be thinking about building rapport with that person so that they feel motivated to engage with you and call you back.
Yep, that's exactly, Jeff, what I was going to say. I would just have a structure for it. I would call them, hang up if they don't pick up, right? Don't let it go to voicemail. If it goes to voicemail, hang up. Call them again in about 20, 30 seconds later. Remember, this is for Angela, specifically for you, who's saying they made an appointment or they're showing a request. Call them again, then leave them a voicemail. If they don't pick up, then you're done there. Then you text them and say, hey, Angela, I just left you a voicemail. Let me know if you'd like to see the property Thursday or whatever day at 5 p.m. I can set that up for you, or if the weekend is better. After you're done with the text, you're going to now grab that, put it in an email format. The subject line is, I just left you a voicemail. And then what you just texted goes in the body. And then you're going to go back to a text 20 minutes later, and you're going to say, let me know, dot. Because you never know where you're catching people at the beginning of this, but 20 minutes later, it's just a nudge. And the email that goes out, I would use CINC, the whole process, and emailing them there, because they're getting properties through there because they just set the request. They're opening them. So I would send out the email through there. Hope that helps, Angela.
Something else for Angela is build curiosity. If they're not responding, send a picture of the listing or picture. Did you see the kitchen from this listing? What do you think about that? Try to engage them in a specific conversation that shows that you're a human, that you have knowledge about this, and maybe say, oh, there's a couple of interesting things about this I want to share with you, or I found out about this listing. These would be my own personal strategies of, oh, I looked up this in the MLS and there's some interesting notes on it that I'd love to share with you. And that way they know that you can add value. So it's not just you're getting back with them to show listing, but there's something more that you can provide to help them make a decision. So anything to do that piques their curiosity is going to get them to engage. All right, so now to share my screen again.
While you're sharing, Christina had a good point too. If you want to try video texting, video email, that's a great option as well. This was awesome, bro. I loved everything you shared because I love data, and then taking a look at how that compares to what we've done over the years. And look, if you have any questions about CINC, Jake's been putting up the link in there. We were with them from year one. So we love CINC, and you'll love it too. Jeff, thanks for being on, man. I appreciate you. Anybody have questions about CINC? Jump on there. Jeff, I'll see you the next time. I'd love to have you on and dive deeper, man.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Tristan.